When I was in grade 10, something very special happened at my school. We had a new English teacher, and his name was Mr. Scott. He was young, kind, and very polite, and everyone liked him. He had dark hair and soft brown eyes, and he was only 24 years old when he came to teach us. Many students thought he looked very smart and handsome, and he quickly became a popular teacher in the school. During breaks, many girls in the school often walked past his classroom just because they wanted to see him. But even though he was young, Mr. Scott was always very professional, and he stayed focused on teaching. The other teachers also liked him because he was friendly, respectful, and serious about his work. I admired Mr. Scott from the very beginning. I thought he was the best teacher in the whole world. I never missed any of his classes, and I always tried my best to do my homework well because I wanted him to feel proud of me. Unlike some of my classmates, I was a shy girl, and I could not make jokes or ask funny questions to him in class. Instead, I just worked hard, listened carefully, and tried to learn as much as possible. Sometimes I wore my favorite dress to his lessons, hoping that he would notice me. When he called on me during class, I always felt very nervous. My heart started beating fast, and my hands began to shake. But even with my nervous feelings, I always answered his questions because I wanted to do well. Mr. Scott often smiled at me and said, "Good job, Emma." Hearing these words made me so happy, and it gave me the energy to work harder. That whole year, I could not stop thinking about my teacher. I even dreamed about him at night. One day, I discovered that his house was not far from my neighborhood. Sometimes I walked past his house, just hoping to see him. If he was outside, he always smiled and said hello to me. And that small gesture made me feel special. But if I ever saw him talking with friends, I sometimes felt jealous without knowing why. When I moved to grade 11, something unexpected happened. Mr. Scott left our school because he got a new job in another city. I was very sad and missed him so much. I even walked past his old house, but he was not there anymore. After some time, I became busy with my university exam preparation. I joined extra English classes to study harder. On my first day in the class, I could not believe my eyes. Mr. Scott was standing in front of me again as the teacher. My heart filled with joy, and I felt very lucky to see him once more. For 6 months, I studied hard in his class, and soon I became one of his best students. Sometimes, after the lesson, we stayed a little longer to talk. He asked me about my future plans, and I asked him about his work and his life in the new city. One day, he offered to walk me home, and I felt so surprised, but also very happy. After that, he often walked with me, and I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. We slowly started spending more time together. We went to the park, watched movies, and talked for hours. Those moments felt like a dream to me, and I thought Mr. Scott was the perfect person. But then, something happened again. He told me that he had a new job offer in another country, and he had to move to the USA. My heart felt heavy, but we promised to keep in touch by writing letters. For the first few months, we wrote letters to each other every week. I waited for his letters with excitement, but slowly, life became busy, and the letters became fewer. I started college, and he became busy with his new job. Over time, we lost contact. 8 years passed quickly. One day, I found Mr. Scott on a social media site. I decided to send him a message, and to my surprise, he replied. We planned to meet at a cafe. I dressed nicely and went to see him, and I was very excited. When I saw him again, I was surprised. He looked different now. He was older, he had gained a little weight, and his hair was no longer the same as before. His eyes still looked kind, but they were not as bright as I remembered. We talked for hours, but something felt different. He was not the same person I had admired so much as a teenager. After the meeting, I thought about everything. I remembered the young teacher who had once made me feel so happy. But I realized that my feelings had changed. We grow, we change, and the things that are important to us when we are young are not always important to us later in life. Still, I knew that I would always smile when I remembered my first teacher, Mr. Scott. He was my first big admiration, and he was a beautiful part of my memories. Meeting him again made me both happy and sad. I was happy to see him, but I was also sad because I knew that time had passed and my life had moved in a different direction. The next day, I looked at old school photos. I saw my friends, my teachers, and even pictures of Mr. Scott. I smiled because those were beautiful days of my life, but I also knew that my present life was different. I was a grown woman now, with a job, new friends, and new dreams. 1 week later, Mr. Scott sent me a message saying, "It was nice meeting you. I hope we can stay friends." I replied, "Thank you, Mr. Scott. It was nice seeing you too. I wish you all the best." We talked a little more, but in my heart, I knew it was time to move forward. One evening, I was walking in the park near my house. It started to rain, and I remembered a day long ago when Mr. Scott once walked me home in the rain. I smiled and I thought, life is like rain. Sometimes it feels cold and heavy, but it also helps new flowers grow. Now, when I think about Mr. Scott, I feel peaceful. He was a part of my story, but he was not the end of my story. Life is full of surprises, and it always brings new people and new dreams into our lives. And sometimes, the best moments come when we least expect them. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.